Good afternoon, everybody. So, we are going to discuss now about the economic geography. Okay. So, is the audio good? Is it loud and good? Okay. So, basically, what do we study in economic geography? In economic geography, we study about the various mineral resources India is having, where they are located, how they are distributed, what are the various industries based on these mineral resources. That is what we study in economic geography. So, as I told you, agriculture, I'll be giving you the handout. Just don't worry about that. Okay. And so, I hope you got some idea regarding what we are going to study now in economic geography. Okay. So, let us first start with iron ore. Okay. Now, iron ore is of four types: hematite, magnetite, limonite, and siderite. So, what are we going to study? Where are these located? Which states have the highest content of iron ore, like different types of iron ore? Okay. Where do we have iron ore mines? That is what we are going to study. And the same thing we are going to do for coal. And then after coal, we are going to do the same thing for petrol, like oil, and then natural gas. And guys, like I won't be discussing about minor minerals like gold, silver, diamonds, and all that. But I'll give you a handout for that. Just don't worry. Okay. So we are just going to discuss about the major ones. Okay. Now, first hematite. Now, hematite is reddish in color. This is hematite, and it is the best type of iron ore. So, why do we call hematite as the best type of iron ore? Because it has 70% metallic content. First of all, what do you mean by ore? Ore is a mineral. What do you mean by mineral? A mineral contains many elements in some proportion. Now, out of this, we need iron. Okay. So, we are calling hematite as the best type of iron ore because hematite contains 70% metallic content. That means 70% is iron. Clear? Now, it is found in Dharwar and Kadapa rock systems. So, actually, some people start Indian geography by discussing the various rock systems of India. But I personally feel that it is time waste. Okay, wherever the need arises, there I'll explain about the rocks. Instead of taking a separate class on rocks, at the end of the class, you'll be left in a confused state of mind. And also, it is a bit dry and boring concept. So, that is the reason I did not discuss rocks separately. So, wherever the need arises, there I will discuss about the rocks of India. Okay, so now, just look at this point. It is found in Dharwar and Kadapa rock systems of peninsular India. Dharwar rock system is 4 to 1 billion years old. Okay, and Kadapa rock system is around 1400 to 600 million years old. Okay, we are talking about minerals, right? Where do we find minerals? In between the rocks, between the different layers of rocks. So, where do you find hematite? It is found in Dharwar and Kadapa rock systems of peninsular India. Dharwar rock system is somewhere between 4 to 1 billion years old. All the rocks of Dharwar were formed between 4 billion years old, 4 billion years ago and 1 billion years ago. The same thing with Kadapa. Okay. The rocks of Kadapa system are 1400 to 600 million years old. Clear? I'm going to explain about that also. Please don't worry. By the end of this course, as I promised, you'll have complete clarity over everything. Now, 80% of hematite reserves are in Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and Andhra Pradesh. In West Karnataka, Maharashtra, and Goa, also we find this type of ore. Okay, but 80% of hematite reserves are found in Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and AP. So such points are very, very important, guys. UPSC will keep on asking such type of questions. See, UPSC has to make sure that the question paper is balanced. That means some questions are tough, some questions are moderate, and some questions should be easy. So these type of questions, they fall under easy to moderate category. Okay, because these are not tough. You just go through any basic geography book, you will have idea about all these things. Okay, so these questions come under moderate and tough category. Just keep that in mind. Now, magnetite. It is black ore, as you can see, it is black in color, and it contains 60 to 70% metallic content. So it is the second best. How much does magnetite contain? I'm sorry, hematite contain 70%. Okay, magnetite 60 to 70% metallic content. All these are different iron ores. And it is found in Dharwar and Kadapa rock systems, same like before. Okay, and this ore has magnetic properties. And it is found in the states of Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala. Okay, next, limonite. It is inferior ore. That means it contains less metal content. So it is inferior ore and it is yellowish in color. Now, limonite is found in Damuda series of rocks. I'll explain all these guys. Please don't worry. Limonite is found in Damuda series of rocks. And Damuda series is around 200 to 250 million years old. These numbers will keep on changing. Some textbooks say 200, some textbooks say 250. So 200 to 250 million years old. The Damuda series of rocks. Okay. So where do we find limonite in India? So limonite is found in Damuda series of rocks, which are somewhere between 200 to 250 million years old, and they are found in Raniganj coalfield. Where do you find Raniganj coalfield? West Bengal. And apart from that, Gharwal region in Uttarakhand, Mirzapur in Uttar Pradesh, and Kangra Valley of Himachal Pradesh. Okay. So in the starting, in the beginning, this might seem to be very factual. This might seem to be very boring or dry, but don't worry. As we proceed through the class, it will definitely improve, and you'll start finding this more and more interesting. Okay. So please don't worry about that, guys. As I told you, as we progress through the class, you'll find this more and more interesting. Next, siderite. So siderite is iron carbonate. That means it contains limestone also. Okay, not limestone basically. It contains carbonate minerals, so lime. So it is called iron carbonate. And even this is inferior quality ore. And it contains less than 40% iron. So this is like the most inferior quality of iron ore. Contains less than 40% iron. So it contains many impurities, mostly lime, because we are using the word carbonate, and mining is not economically viable. Okay, this is viable, not variable, viable, spelling mistake. What do you mean by economically viable? To mine siderite, you need to spend a lot of money, right? But if you sell siderite, you won't get, that much money. So mining is not economically viable because it contains less than 40% iron. Clear, right? So, what is the best type of iron ore? It is hematite, 70% iron content. And where is hematite found? Dharwar and Kadapa rock systems. Okay. Now, this point is again very, 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 very important. Extremely important. 80% of hematite reserves are found in Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and AP. But a few leftover reserves are scattered here and there in West Karnataka, Maharashtra, and Goa. Now, magnetite. Iron content 60 to 70%. Okay, so again, same found in Dharwar and Kadapa rock systems. Okay, and this is found in the states of Karnataka, AP, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala. Next, you have limonite 40 to 60%. It is inferior ore because it is having less iron content 40 to 60%. Now, where is limonite found? Damuda series of rocks. Okay, magnetite and hematite, Dharwar and Kadapa rock systems. But limonite, Damuda rock system or simply Damuda series. Okay, and where do you find limonite in India? Raniganj coalfield in West Bengal. This is very famous actually. Garhwal region in Uttarakhand, Mirzapur in UP, and Kangra Valley of Himachal Pradesh. Clear, right? And then you also understood about siderite. It contains carbonate compounds. So it is iron carbonate. That means it contains lime. Okay, so lime is one of the biggest impurities. So siderite is like the most inferior quality of iron ore. It contains less than 40% iron, and mining is not economically viable. Now, from here it is very, very important, guys. I hope you understood about the four types of iron ore. So from now, iron ore distribution in India, it is very, very important. You were all saying that the sound quality was good, audio was good, but my microphone was not even connected. So I don't know to what you were listening to. I got some doubt. That's the reason I checked my settings and I found out that the microphone is not connected at all. Okay, and you were telling me that the sound is fine. Okay, because maybe because of my loud voice, you felt that the audio is fine, but my microphone was not connected at all. Okay, now the audio will be good now. It will be loud and good now. Okay, iron ore distribution in India. So hematite is in a very large quantity in India, 18,000 million tons. Okay, so which is the largest quantity of iron ore found in India? Hematite, 18,000 million tons. And then you have magnetite, 10,500 million tons. Again, these numbers will keep on changing. Okay, so just don't worry about that. The thing you have to keep in mind is hematite is the largest variety of iron ore that is found in India. Okay, so hematite and magnetite are the two most important iron ores in India. Clear, right? Okay, yes, now it will be loud because previously the laptop was taking my voice, laptop microphone. But now I connected my microphone. Now it will be loud and clear. Okay, your ears will ache if you have headset. Okay. Okay, I'll just reduce the volume. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. So guys, I reduced the volume. Don't worry, your ears are safe. Okay. So hematite, maximum quantity. And next, magnetite in second place. So these are the two most important iron ores in India. So where do you find hematite? Odisha 33%, Jharkhand 26%, Chhattisgarh 18%, and the rest is in AP, Assam, Bihar, Maharashtra, MP, Rajasthan, and UP. Now magnetite, majority 73% Karnataka. Next AP 14%, Rajasthan 5%, Tamil Nadu 4.9%, and the rest is scattered in many other states. Okay. So guys, this point and these 2 points are very, very important because you got a previous question already. Okay. So where do you find hematite? Odisha and Jharkhand, maximum reserves. Odisha 33%, Jharkhand 26%. And then Chhattisgarh also contains a lot of reserves. Chhattisgarh 18%. Okay. And then the rest is in AP, Assam, Bihar, Maharashtra, MP, Rajasthan, and UP. Coming to magnetite, majority 73%, Karnataka. Next, AP 14%, Rajasthan 5%, Tamil Nadu 4.9%, and the rest is scattered in many other states. Now, answer this question. Previous year question. Statement 1, Karnataka has more than half of the reserves of magnetite ore in India. Statement 2, Jharkhand has the highest reserves of hematite ore in India. Okay, so which is the correct? Only one. So B is the correct option. Karnataka has more than half of magnetite reserves in India. Clear, right? So these points are very, very important, guys. Please pay attention to such points. And sometimes I might have forgotten to, highlight the point in bold. But in spite of that, you should be able to identify the important points. Okay. So moving on. Iron ore in Odisha. The iron ores that are found in Odisha are rich in hematites. India's richest hematite deposits are located in Barabil Koira Valley in Kenduja district of Odisha. So this is very, very important point again. Barabil Koira Valley of Kenduja district of Odisha. The region around Barabil has one of the largest deposits of iron ore and manganese ore in the world. This region, Barabil Koira Valley, has one of the largest deposits of iron ore and manganese in the entire world. And what are the other places in Odisha where you find hematite? Sundargarh, Mayurbhanj, Cuttack, Sambalpur, Kionjhar, and Gorakhpur districts. Okay. Now let us discuss about iron ore in Chhattisgarh. Here, Bailadila mine is the largest mechanized mine in Asia. What do you mean by mechanized mine? They use all that mechanized excavators and all that. Human interference is very less. Human work is very less here. That is the meaning of mechanized mine. Okay. And I'm pretty sure that you might have heard this name before. Like Bailadila mine, it keeps on appearing in news very frequently. Yes, Gautam. You need to remember percentage wise as well. Okay. Because you all want to crack this exam, right? So there is no other option. Nobody told you that this exam is easy. You have to remember. There is no other option. Okay. Now, the Bailadila mine is located in the Bailadila range, which is a hill range about 200 kilometers west of the Eastern Ghats. So basically, Bailadila Hills is located in southern Chhattisgarh, about 200 kilometers west of the Eastern Ghats, in Dantewada district of southern Chhattisgarh. We all know Dantewada for one reason. What is that? Naxalism. Okay. Now, these all points are very important. From Bailadila mine, a 270-kilometer long slurry pipeline is there. This pipeline transports slurry to Vizag steel plant in Vishakhapatnam. Okay. What do you mean by slurry? It is like a semi-liquid mixture of ore and the other particles. So from Bailadila mine, there is a 270-kilometer long slurry pipeline. And the pipeline transports all the slurry to Vizag steel and iron plant, where smelting is done. What do you mean by smelting? Removing iron, separating iron from the ore, and then molding it, converting that into various shapes and forms. That is the meaning of smelting. So, smelting and manufacturing of steel that is done in the Vizag Iron and Steel Factory, which is very, very famous. Now, Bailadila's high grade ore, it contains a lot of iron percentage. Biladela's high-grade ore is exported through Visakhapatnam to Japan. Actually, not only Japan, but Japan is famous here. Because there is no iron ore in Japan, but Japan has a very large automobile industry. Okay. Honda is a Japanese company. Okay. Clear, right? Yes, it is very difficult to remember. That is the reason you have to revise. Revision is the only superhero which is going to save you in the exam. Trust me. Revision. I'm telling you with my personal experience. Then don't ask why you did not clear. I did not clear because of getting less marks in paper one of public administration. Again, I'm not criticizing public administration. It's a very beautiful subject, but for me, it was not suiting. Okay? Clear, right? So please remember this pipeline. It's a 270-kilometer long pipeline transporting slurry from Biladila mine to Vizag steel plant. Clear, right? Now, let us discuss about iron ore in Jharkhand. So around 25%, 25 to 26% of hematite reserves are in Jharkhand. Okay. And the first mine, it was in Singhbhum district in 1904. The first mine. Iron ore of here is of highest quality and will last for hundreds of years. Very, very good quality of iron. So Navamandi mines in Singhbhum are the richest. Magnetite ores also occur near Daltonganj in Palmau district. So again, you don't have to remember these names, but you have to remember that 25 to 26% of hematite reserves are in Jharkhand. That is mandatory. And you should also keep in mind that the first iron ore mine was started in Singhbhum in 1904. Okay? So these things you have to remember. My optional was PUBAD. Presently it is psychology. It used to be PUBAD once upon a time. Okay, guys? Now, what about iron ore in Karnataka? We have discussed that majority of the magnetite reserves, around 73%, are found in Karnataka. So, these iron ores are widely distributed in the state. These are not, concentrated in one part of the state. Throughout the state, iron ores are distributed. So, you find high-grade ore deposits at Kemmangundi in Baba Budan Hills of Chikmagalur district and Sandur and Hospet in Bellary. See, Bellary mines will keep on coming in news. Bellary mines are very famous for mining mafia. Okay, some of the most famous scams took place here. Some of the largest and most famous scams in the history of India. Bellary mines. Okay, so as soon as you hear the word Bellary mines, the mining mafia should come into your mind. That is how the area got famous. Okay, clear, right? So guys, please don't worry. You have seen this question, right? This is how UPSC will ask. Okay, UPSC will not expect you to remember all the names that are located within a state. Like for example, here. Okay. There are so many names, right? This name. Okay, these two names. You don't have to remember all that. But you have to remember that 73% or the maximum majority hematite found in Karnataka. Okay, just look at this question. All your worries will go away. Just look at this question. Karnataka has more than half of reserves of magnetite ore in India. Jharkhand has the highest reserves of hematite ore in India. Are they asking any factual data? Are they asking any places within the states? No. They are just asking which state has maximum hematite and which state has maximum magnetite reserves in India. So these percentages you have to remember. Okay. But you don't have to remember the names of places within the state. That is not, asked by UPSC. Clear? Not even UPSC, even SSC and railway exams, which are very, very factual, even they don't ask that. So you don't have to worry about that. But again, this point is important. Since because you're worrying, I'm telling you which points are important. This point and this point is important. And also this pipeline point is important. A long pipeline from Bailadila mine to Vizag steel plant, important. Okay, clear, right? Praveen and Gautam, I'm still in dilemma. I don't know whether to give attempt next year or not. I'm still in dilemma. So we'll see what will happen. Okay. Now, coal. We are done with iron ore. Okay. So we have discussed all the important points about iron ore. Now let us move on to coal. So now this is a bit more analytical compared to iron ore because we are going to discuss about formation of coal also. Now we all know that coal is called black gold. Okay. And coal is found in sedimentary strata. What do you mean by that? Different layers of rocks or layers of soil. Okay. Now, coal contains carbon, volatile matter, moisture, and ash. And in some cases, sulfur and phosphorus are also present. Okay. Now, except carbon, all the other things are considered to be impurities. And if the percentage of impurities is more, then the coal does not give out much energy. And coal gives out a lot of ash and smoke, dust. We don't need that. If the coal contains a lot of carbon, then that coal is very pure. That coal is having the best quality. That coal will burn with a blue flame. That means complete combustion without any impurities. But we don't have such coal in India, unfortunately. Okay, we are going to discuss that also, don't worry. But as of now, please keep one thing in mind: the volatile matter, moisture, and ash, and in some cases, sulfur and phosphorus. All these are considered to be impurities in the coal. And these impurities will contribute to a lot of pollution: smoke, particulate matter, aerosols, and all the other things. Now, coal in India is mostly used for power generation and metallurgy. What do you mean by metallurgy? All the metallurgical industries, melting an ore, extracting the pure element, and converting that into various shapes, sizes, forms. That is metallurgical industry. Okay. So, in India, coal is mostly used for power generation and metallurgical industry. As I told you before, 80% of the power in India is produced from coal based thermal power plants. We also have thermal power plants that run on the basis of natural gas, okay, but they are very few in number. Most of the thermal power plants use coal. Clear? Now, coal reserves are 6 times greater than oil and petroleum reserves in India. Clear, right? Now, coal is of different types. First of all, tell me, do you have any doubts still here? Abhishek, you people should not have that confusion, right? You must give attempt. Okay? Because I have already given 4 attempts. I still have 2 more attempts left. So I have to save my attempts. But that should not be your attitude. You can give one attempt so that you'll get to know the paper standard. You'll get to know the pulse of UPSC, the expectations of UPSC. And that will greatly shape your preparation. That will mold your preparation. Okay? So, anyway, it's up to you. That is just my suggestion. Now, Carboniferous coal. It is world's oldest coal. Okay, and most of the world's coal was formed in Carboniferous age, 350 million years ago. Okay, and it is the best quality of coal available on planet Earth. Please keep this in mind. All these are very, very important. Take it for granted. UPSC will definitely ask. Okay, so from here it's very important, guys. You have to remember all these. Carboniferous coal. So most of the world's coal was formed in Carboniferous age, 350 million years ago. And it is the best quality coal. Okay, so you have to understand few things here. If the coal is very old, it is very pure. As simple as that. The older the coal, the more the carbon content it has. Now, Carboniferous coal, 350 million years old coal. So, obviously, it is going to have a lot of carbon content, and that is the reason it is the best quality coal. Clear, right? Now, the Carboniferous period began approximately 358.9 million years ago and ended 298.9 million years ago. So the duration of Carboniferous period was approximately 60 million years. Okay. And why do we call it as Carboniferous in the first place? In the name itself, you have the word carbon. We call it as Carboniferous period because most of the world's coal was formed in Carboniferous age. As simple as that. Clear, right? So, guys, don't feel scared about the exam. Don't worry. Give an attempt. Only then you'll understand. And if you're giving an attempt in a very solid way with solid preparation, good confidence, there's a very good chance that you might even crack it in the first attempt. So, please don't worry about anything. Okay? Now, formation of coal. This is very, very important. When organic matter is buried deep inside the earth, the amount of oxygen, nitrogen, and moisture content decreases with time, while the proportion of carbon increases. Now, the proportion of carbon is increasing. The quantity of carbon is not increasing, but the proportion of carbon is increasing because the other elements are moving out. First, you have to understand that coal is formed from organic matter. I'm pretty sure that you all know that coal is formed from organic matter. Now, when organic matter is buried deep inside the earth under many layers of soil, this organic matter will be subjected to a lot of heat and a lot of pressure. Then, all the volatile compounds and all the other elements like oxygen, nitrogen, all the heavy hydrocarbons, they'll all move out, they'll escape out, and carbon will be left behind. Pure, simple carbon will be left behind. Okay, so that is how carbon forms. Now, let us go through this point again. When organic matter is buried deep inside the earth, the amount of oxygen, nitrogen, and moisture content decreases with time, while the proportion of carbon increases. The quantity of carbon does not increase, but the proportion of carbon increases because there is loss of other elements. I hope you understood this. Now, capacity of coal to give energy depends upon the percentage or carbon content. If coal has a lot of carbon content, it gives a lot of energy. As simple as that. Now, older the coal, greater its carbon content. If the coal is very old, that means most of oxygen, nitrogen, and the other volatile impurities might have left the coal. And whatever is remaining, that is mostly purely carbon. Clear? So, older the coal, the greater is the carbon content. That means if you subject an organic matter to heat and pressure for a very, 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 very long time, then you'll get a very pure form of coal, which is mostly carbon. And impurities are in very, very less quantities. Clear, right? Now, percentage of carbon in the coal depends on the duration and intensity of heat and pressure on the wood. Actually, coal is formed from wood. Okay. Now, carbon content also depends on the depth of formation. More depth means more pressure and heat, so better carbon content. I hope you understood all these points. These are all very, very, very important, guys. So, first thing you have to keep in mind, older the coal, the greater is its carbon content. That is the first thing you have to keep in mind. And capacity of coal to give out energy depends on the percentage or carbon content. Okay, percentage of carbon or carbon content. Okay, so if the carbon content is high, the coal gives out more energy. Now, when does coal have more carbon content? If it is very old. That means the coal was buried deep inside the earth and organic matter or wood was buried deep inside the earth and a lot of heat, lot of pressure acted on that piece of organic matter for a very long time. All the other elements, apart from carbon, escape out, leaving carbon behind. Okay? Did you get this, guys? Everybody? Aditya. So I'll do that tomorrow. Today, I don't think it is possible because we'll have to finish off this concept, right? Okay? So I'll do it tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then as I told you, I'll come back from a trip on Friday. Then maybe on Saturday, if at all you want, I can take a session and I can give you some tips or suggestions. Okay? So just don't worry about that. I'm always there. It is all up to you. If you want me to take a class, I can take a class. So just don't worry about that. So, did you get all these points? Very, very important. Now, just see how the coal formed during the Carboniferous period, or maybe just before the Carboniferous period. The earth used to be covered in huge swamp forests, very huge. We cannot even imagine that. Huge swamp forests. Now, eventually, we know that the earth's surface will be subjected to endogenic and exogenic forces. Okay, these endogenic and exogenic forces covered these swamps with a layer of mud and soil. Okay, and again on top of that, another swamp formed. Okay, and plants started growing. Again, endogenic, exogenic forces covered that swamp with another layer of thick mud and soil. That swamp got sealed up. Again, on top of that, another swamp, again sealing up, another swamp sealing up. So this went on for many, many years. That is the reason you find coal in different layers. I hope you're understanding. You find a layer of coal and then layer of rocks and then layer of coal, layer of rocks. And the layer of the coal that is deepest will be the best quality coal ever compared to the top layers of coal. Clear, right? So did you get this, guys? Now just try to read whatever is here. We'll read it together. Millions of years ago, dead plant matter fell into swampy water, and over time, a thick layer of dead plants lay decaying at the bottom of the swamp. Over time, the surface and climate of the earth changed, and more water and dirt washed in, halting the decay process, forming peat. The weight of the top layers of water and dirt packed down the lower levels of plant matter. Under heat and pressure, this plant matter underwent chemical and physical changes, pushing out oxygen and leaving rich hydrocarbon deposits. What once had been plants gradually turned into coal. Clear? Now, I'll just explain this, don't worry. Now, before explaining first, do you remember peat? We have discussed about peat in wetlands chapter. What do you mean by peat? Peat is an accumulation of partially decayed organic matter that is found at a waterlogged location. When I say waterlogged location, it can be a swamp or marsh. Okay? Peat is an accumulation of partially decomposed plant matter that got accumulated at a waterlogged location. And guys, please keep one thing in mind. This is very, very important. Peat is the first stage in the formation of coal. Okay? So now we'll try to understand how coal forms in a very in-depth fashion. Coal formed millions of years ago when the earth was covered with huge swampy forests. Most of the earth was covered with large wetlands, swampy forests. Now, just imagine a swampy forest. Now, this is the layer of water. Okay, just imagine this to be the surface, and this is a level of water, and all these are the plants. This is a swamp. Now, what happens? The plants will have a lifespan, right? So, plants will die eventually. So, eventually, this entire bottom got accumulated with a thick layer of partially decomposed organic matter, and that is how peat formed. Okay. Now, endogenic, exogenic forces will act, and they have covered the entire swamp with thick layers of mud and soil. Clear? And they stopped the decomposition process of peat. So, peat remained buried under several layers of mud and soil. Now, what happens to peat? A lot of pressure and a lot of heat. Why pressure? Because the top layers of mud and soil will put a lot of weight on the peat. And also, we know that the deeper we go, the more hotter it becomes. So, the peat is subjected to a lot of pressure and heat for many millions of years. Finally, the peat will get converted into coal. So, peat is the first stage in the formation of coal. As simple as that. So, this is the process of formation of coal, and peat is the first stage in the formation of coal. We can also use peat as a fuel, but peat contains a lot of moisture, lot of organic material. So peat burns, giving out very less heat, but lot of ash, smoke, and all these pollutants. Clear, right? Okay, guys. Now let us just go through these points. Coal formed millions of years ago when the earth was covered with huge swampy forests. As the plants grew, some died and fell into the swamp waters. New plants grew to take up their places, and the cycle continued. So basically, this swamp got accumulated with a thick layer of dead plants getting getting rotten, I'm sorry, rotten or getting partially decomposed in this swamp. Meanwhile, the surface of the earth changed due to endogenic and exogenic forces, and the swamp got covered with matter. What is that matter? Mud and soil. Okay. Now, after that, more plants grew up in this place. Okay. But they too died and fell, forming separate layers. After millions of years, many layers had formed on top of each other. Okay. So, initially there was a swamp here. Now, this got covered with many layers of mud and soil due to endogenic and exogenic forces. The swamp got destroyed, but eventually, again, there's going to be ecological succession. We all have studied about that. Another swamp forms in this place. Even that will be covered with many layers of mud and soil. Again, the peat will be trapped. Again, another swamp will grow. Even that will be covered with many layers of mud and soil. Again, the peat will be trapped under the layers. In this way, many layers are formed, and all these layers are lying one on top of the other. So now the peat layers at the bottom, they are under a lot of pressure because they are bearing the weight of all the topmost layers and also heat. So both heat and pressure combined together, they transform peat into coal. Okay. During the transformation process, many volatile organic matter and many other elements like oxygen, sulfur, potassium, they all escape out. They all move out, leaving pure carbon behind. That is how coal forms. So I hope you understood this. Clear, right? Now, coal is classified into three main types: lignite, bituminous coal, and anthracite. Okay. Now, this classification of coal is based on what? It is based on the amount of carbon and moisture content in the coal. Okay. So, coal is classified into three main types. Around the world, everybody uses the same classification system for coal: lignite, bituminous, and anthracite. On what basis are we classifying this? On the basis of carbon and moisture content. Now, apart from carbon, what are the other constituents that coal contains? Hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, ash, and sulfur. Now, they will be present in small quantities because during the formation of coal, during that process, most of all these elements would escape out. They would leave, leaving the carbon behind. Okay. So, these will be present in small quantities compared to carbon. Clear? But even though they are present in small quantities, they are still considered to be impurities. Because if they are present in large proportion, then the coal becomes impure and the coal gives out less heat and the coal burns with lot of smoke and particulate matter and pollutants. But we don't want that. Clear, right? So apart from these, some undesirable chemical constituents include chlorine and sodium. Because coal is naturally forming inside the earth, right? And coal is nothing but organic matter. So it contains all these elements. Okay? Clear, right? Now, in the process of transformation or coalification, formation of coal, now this is very, very important. Peat is first transformed into lignite. Lignite is transformed into subbituminous. Subbituminous is transformed into bituminous. And bituminous coal is transformed into anthracite. It all depends on time. Okay. Right now, if you are finding subbituminous coal, where is that? Yeah, subbituminous coal. It means you did not give enough time. If you had left subbituminous coal for more millions of years, subbituminous will get transformed into bituminous and bituminous will get transformed into anthracite. And anthracite is the best quality of coal available on planet Earth. It all depends on time. Okay. So first, peat will be under several layers of mud and soil. Peat will be under a lot of pressure, lot of heat. Eventually, peat will get transformed into lignite. And if you leave lignite alone, lignite will get transformed into subbituminous after many millions of years. If you leave subbituminous coal alone, it will get transformed into bituminous coal after many millions of years. And if you leave bituminous coal alone without extracting that, it will get transformed into anthracite eventually after many more millions of years. It all depends on time. Clear? So peat, lignite and coal. Here coal means bituminous and anthracite. Only these are considered to be coal. Lignite is considered to be brown coal or semi coal. Okay. So here in this terminology, coal means bituminous and anthracite. Lignite is considered to be brown coal or semi coal. It is somewhere in the middle. Lignite is a transition phase, a temporary phase. Okay, guys. So, Pooja, I don't think the management would allow that. So, you can ask the management at any time. They'll just inform me and I can take a class. Okay. Or if you have any doubt, just ask the management to forward that to me. I will respond to that. Okay. So I hope you understood this, guys. So did you get this, everybody? So it all depends on time. See, time. Okay. So time is the main factor here. Clear, right? Now, peat. Peat is the first stage of transformation. Okay. Now, peat contains less than 40 to 55% carbon. That means peat contains a lot of impurities. So, peat contains sufficient quantities of volatile matter and a lot of moisture because we are talking about swamp and organic matter. So, contains a lot of moisture. So, when you burn peat, you get more smoke and more pollution but less heat. Why do we burn coal in the first place? We need heat, right? Thermal energy. But if you burn peat, you get less heat, but you get more smoke and impurities, more smoke and pollution. Because peat contains a lot of impurities. Okay? Peat will burn like wood, gives less heat, emits more smoke, and leaves a lot of ash. So generally people don't use peat as fuel. Okay, clear? Now, lignite. Lignite is called brown coal. It is not completely coal, it is brown coal. So it is lower grade coal, less quality coal. And again, same carbon content 40 to 55%, same like peat. And lignite is a transition stage or intermediate stage, as I told you before. Okay. And what is the color of lignite? Dark to black brown. Clear? So basically, this is lignite. So moisture content for lignite is again high, more than 35%. And the main problem with lignite mining, okay, sometimes when you expose lignite to oxygen and heat in the sense like sunlight, it gets burnt instantaneously. That is called spontaneous combustion. Okay, so that is the biggest hazard in lignite mines. Okay, so it creates fire accidents in mines. See, all these years, lignite was present deep inside the earth, right? Away from oxygen, away from sunlight. So if you suddenly bring it to the ground level, or if you suddenly expose that to atmosphere and sunlight, then it starts burning spontaneously. Okay, because oxygen is required for combustion, right? All these years it did not have any oxygen. Suddenly, if you bring it into contact with oxygen, it burns spontaneously. So that is a very big hazard in mines. Now, bituminous coal. It is the most widely available and used coal. Very, 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 very important. Now, why do we call it as bituminous? It derives its name after a liquid called bitumen. Okay, bitumen is the black viscous mixture of hydrocarbons obtained as a residue from petrol distillation. Okay, we purify crude oil, right, in oil refineries, then we get a residue. That residue is called bitumen. It's a black mixture. See, bitumen is also called tar. Okay, now you're able to relate to it. So, bitumen is also called tar. It is used for road surfacing and roofing. There is another name for bitumen, it is called asphalt. Okay, so bitumen or tar, both are same. It's also called asphalt. In India, we call it as tar. In the Western countries, they call it as asphalt. Okay. Now, this coal contains 40 to 80% carbon. So the carbon content improved because lignite gets transformed into subbituminous and subbituminous into bituminous eventually over a period of some millions of years. So the carbon content increased here. Moisture and volatile content became less, 15 to 40%. Now this coal is dense, compact, and it is usually of black color. Clear? Now, bituminous coal does not have traces of organic material. All the organic material is transformed now. Bituminous coal does not have any traces of organic material. But if you take peat and lignite, you find many traces of organic matter. Now, calorific value or the amount of energy given out by bituminous coal is very high due to high proportion of carbon and low moisture. Okay. Now, bituminous coal is used in the production of coke and gas. What do you mean by coke? Coke is a fuel that is used mostly in iron and steel industry. Okay. See, we have to subject all these materials to very, very high temperature in the furnace. Okay. So they use coke. Coke is a fuel. So kindly Google 1 or 2 points about coke after we are done with this session. So please keep one thing in mind. Bituminous coal is used in the production of coke. And coke is a very important fuel used in metallurgical industries, especially iron and steel industries. Okay. And iron and steel industries are considered to be one of the core industries. And we have to develop iron and steel industries more and more. They are used in construction, automobiles, so many more applications are there. So we need more and more coke in India. Okay, so that is one of the problems. Why is it a problem? We are going to discuss later. Don't worry. Now, anthracite coal. This is the best quality coal. And also it is a hard coal. See, look at this. It seems to be very hard. And also it has a metal-like surface here. Metallic luster, metallic surface. So anthracite contains 80 to 95% carbon and very little volatile matter. Very, very little impurities. And it contains negligibly small proportion of moisture. Okay, and it has semi-metallic luster. That means the surface almost seems like, a metallic surface. Now, anthracite coal, it ignites slowly. That means there is less loss of heat and it is highly efficient. We don't want the coal to burn rapidly. If the coal burns rapidly, it releases all the heat at once and then it turns into ash. What is the use? We don't want that. We want the coal to burn slowly, giving out heat slowly. Okay? So that is what anthracite does. It ignites slowly, that means less loss of heat and highly efficient. So anthracite coal ignites slowly and burns with a blue flame. Do you remember we have discussed about complete combustion and incomplete combustion? Complete combustion. That means complete combustion only happens when there are very less impurities. And complete combustion will give blue color flame and the temperature of the flame is very high. But incomplete combustion, lot of impurities and pollutants. The flame is yellowish or orange in color and the temperature of the flame is less. Okay, where else do you find blue flame? In our stoves, in kitchens. We use LPG, right? LPG does not have any pollutants. LPG does not have any contaminants. So when you burn LPG, you get blue flame in this stove. The same thing happens when you burn anthracite coal. Clear? Now, in India, unfortunately, anthracite is only found in Jammu and Kashmir and that too in very, very small quantities. Very small quantities. Very bad for us, unfortunately. Clear, guys? Are you understanding all these? I tried my best to make all the points simple so that you'll easily understand. Understanding a concept, writing that in your own words, that is what we need to crack this exam. Okay? Clear? You understood anthracite coal? Now, this is very, very important. Distribution of coal in India. Okay. Coal in India is found in two coal fields. First is Gondwana coal field. Second, tertiary coal field. Gondwana coal field is around 250 million years old. 200 to 250 million years old. Tertiary coal field is 15 to 60 million years old. Okay. Gondwana coal is found in those rocks which formed during, which are called Gondwana series of rocks. Just try to understand this way. It's very simple. I'm trying to make it very less complicated. Gondwana coal fields are found in those rocks. See, coal is found between two layers of rock. Just keep that in mind. So Gondwana coal is found in those rocks which are called Gondwana series of rocks or Gondwana family of rocks. The same thing for tertiary coal. Now, what do you mean by Gondwana? I'll explain. Please don't worry. First, try to understand Gondwana coal. Gondwana coal makes up 98% of the total reserves and 99% of the total production of coal in India. Okay, Gondwana coal, which is around 250 million years old, it makes up 98% of the total coal reserves of India and also 99% of the total coal production in India. Okay, the remaining 1%, tertiary coal. Okay, now the carbon content in Gondwana coal, I mentioned the age here. The carbon content in Gondwana coal is less compared to the carboniferous coal because carboniferous coal is 350 million years old. So, Gondwana coal is 100 million years younger, right? And we know that the carbon content will keep on increasing the older the coal is. Okay, the older the coal, the higher the carbon content. We all know this, right? So, carbon content of Gondwana coal is less compared to carboniferous coal. And we don't have any carboniferous coal in India. Clear? So, carbon content in Gondwana coal is less compared to the carbon content in carboniferous coal because of the younger age of Gondwana coal. It is almost 100 million years younger. I hope you're understanding all these. So, if you have any doubts, kindly ask me. Gondwana coal forms India's metallurgical grade as well as superior quality coal. This is what we have basically. So for us, we use Gondwana coal only. Gondwana coal is used in all metallurgical industries. Clear? Now, the Damuda series. Damuda series is lower Gondwana. Accounts for 80% of the total coal production in India. 80% of the total coal production comes from Damuda series of rocks. We are going to discuss again. Let me assure you, I will discuss this. You'll understand. Please don't worry. But as of now, let us just go through these points. Did you understand this first? Coal in India is found in two coal fields, Gondwana coal field and tertiary coal field. Clear? Gondwana coal fields, 98% of the total coal reserves in India and 99% of coal production in India coming from Gondwana coal fields. Why are we calling it as Gondwana coal fields? Because the coal is present in rocks that belong to Gondwana series or Gondwana family of rocks. The same thing for tertiary coal fields. Okay. Now, did you understand these 3 points? Very, very, very important. This is what UPSC will ask. Okay. Now, carbon content in Gondwana coal is less compared to carboniferous coal. We have discussed about carboniferous coal. Do you remember? What is the age of carboniferous coal? 350 million years. What is the age of Gondwana coal? 250 million years. Okay. So, Gondwana coal contains less carbon because it is 100 million years younger than carboniferous coal. Okay. Now, the Damuda series. Again, we are talking about rocks. Damuda series means family of rocks, which belong to lower Gondwana, account for 80% of the total coal production in India. 80 of the 113 Indian coal fields are located in the rock systems of Damuda series. I'll explain, don't worry. Bituminous as well as sub-bituminous coal are obtained from Gondwana coal fields. Okay. Anthracite is generally not found in Gondwana coal fields. The volatile compounds and ash, usually 13 to 30%, do not allow carbon percentage to rise above 55 to 60%. So the coal that is obtained from Gondwana fields, the coal has carbon content between 55 to 60% because there are volatile compounds and ash. They don't allow the carbon content to rise above 60%. Now, the coal needs a few million years more if you want the quality to get better. Gondwana coal is 100 million years younger than carboniferous coal. Just keep that in mind. Now, what is this Damuda series? We came across this word many times, right? So, please understand this. You'll understand everything. First, we'll understand this and then we'll go back to these points and try to understand these points. Gondwana rock system. Okay. This system contains huge coal deposits contained within them. This makes them the largest source of coal in India, containing up to 98% of the total coal deposits in India. We are talking about rocks, Gondwana rock system. The Gondwana rocks are mainly found in Raniganj, Jharia regions of Jharkhand. Okay, I thought Raniganj was in West Bengal. Okay. Gondwana rocks are found in Raniganj and Jharia regions of West Bengal, Damodar Valley, Pench Valley in Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh, Godavari Valley in Telangana, and Rajmahal Hills of West Bengal. In all these areas, you find the Gondwana rocks and coal. Gondwana rocks are divided into two main series of rocks, the Damuda rocks and Panchit rocks. Apart from coal, These rocks are also a source of metallic minerals such as iron, manganese, antimony, uranium, etc. The coal forming process began during the Permian period, that is 250 million years ago. Now, did you understand Gondwana rock system? From that time, we were using the word Gondwana coal, Gondwana coal. What do you mean by Gondwana coal? Gondwana coal is found in Gondwana rock system. What do you mean by Gondwana rock system? The rocks that belong to, the Gondwana system, they are around 250 million years old. Okay. So, the Gondwana rocks are divided into two series or two types, Damuda and Panchet. Damuda is lower Gondwana. That means towards the end of the Gondwana period. That means towards the end of 250 million years. Okay. So did you get this, guys? Yes, Rajmahal Hills are found in Jharkhand. Then what about Raniganj? I thought Raniganj is in West Bengal. Maybe I made a small mistake here in this point. But anyway, I hope you understood the Gondwana rock system. Okay. So basically, we have many rock systems in India: Gondwana rock system, Dharwar rock system, Kadapa rock system. All these rock systems are divided or separated on the basis of their age. Okay. So now, if you give me confirmation that you understood this, we can proceed. We can actually go back to the previous slide. We can understand those points again, and then we can continue. Yes, Raniganj is in West Bengal. I've done a small mistake here. Okay, actually there is a comma, but I combined it and I read it together. There's no mistake in this point. There is a mistake in my reading. Gondwana rocks are mainly found in Raniganj, comma, Jharia regions of Jharkhand. Raniganj of West Bengal, Jharia of Jharkhand, Damodar Valley, Pench Valley in Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh. Pench is in Madhya Pradesh. Damodar, Chhattisgarh. Godavari Valley in Telangana and Rajmahal Hills of West Bengal. West Bengal and Chhattisgarh, they both share. Okay. Now, Gondwana rocks contain a lot of coal deposits. 98% of India's coal deposits are found in Gondwana rock system. Okay. Now, the Gondwana rocks are divided into two different series of rocks, Damuda series and Panchet series. When I say Damuda series, it is lower Gondwana. That means towards the end of Gondwana. Okay. Now, just look at these points. The Damuda series rocks of lower Gondwana account for 80% of the total coal production in India. 80 of 113 coal fields are located in the rock systems of Damuda series. Damuda belongs to Gondwana series of rocks or Gondwana system of rocks. Okay. So, what do we find in Gondwana coal fields? We find bituminous as well as subbituminous coal in Gondwana coal fields. Very, 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 very important point. Anthracite is not found in Gondwana coal fields. Take it for granted. Okay. Now, bituminous and subbituminous coal. Volatile compounds and ash are in this range. So, they don't allow carbon percentage to rise above 60%. Okay, so impurities are definitely there. Now, for this coal to become even more better in quality, it needs a few million years more to become better in quality. But are we waiting for a few more million years? No. We are excavating core like anything and we are extracting a lot of coal. Okay, so that is what is happening. Clear, right? So, guys, did you understand Gondwana rock system? Gondwana coal fields are from Gondwana rock system. And the Gondwana coal is 250 million years old. Okay. Tertiary coal, that is only 15 to 60 million years old. Clear, right? Now, distribution of Gondwana coal in India. First coal mine was opened in 1774 at Raniganj in West Bengal. Yes, Raniganj belongs to West Bengal. And we all know that coal industry was nationalized in 1973 and 74, but the present government has made some serious changes to the coal policy and it allowed private sector to play a bigger role in coal production. So India is now the third largest coal producer in the world after China and the United States. Again, this point is very, very important. Coal industry provides employment to nearly 7 lakh people, directly and indirectly. Gondwana coal fields are exclusively found in the peninsular plateau of India. Very, very, very important because always keep one thing in mind. The peninsular region of India is much, much older than the northern India, non-peninsular part. Okay. Most of the non-peninsular part was formed by deposition of alluvium by the Himalayan rivers, which are very new, very young in geological perspective. But peninsular part of India is extremely old, very, very, very old. Okay. So Gondwana coalfields are exclusively found in the peninsular plateau of India. Very important point. Okay. So I hope you're all feeling good. You're finding this interesting and you're understanding. Okay. Now, what about tertiary coal? Tertiary coal is 15 to 60 million years old. So obviously carbon content is very low. Carbon content is low for Gondwana coal also. Okay. What is the carbon content for Gondwana coal? 55 to 60%. How old is Gondwana coal? 250 million years old. Okay. 250 million years old Gondwana coal itself contains 55 to 60% carbon. Then how much carbon content do you think tertiary coal will contain, which is only 50 to 15 to 60 million years? Very, very low carbon content. Okay. So where do we find tertiary coal? It is found in many areas of extra peninsular region. That means outside the peninsular part. Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Assam, Arunachal Pradesh. Now this coal has low carbon content and high percentage of moisture and sulfur because it is very young. The coal is very young, only 15 to 60 million years old. I told you right. 250 million year old Gondwana coal itself contains 55 to 60% carbon. So obviously coal that is only 15 to 60 million years old will contain even less carbon percentage, much, much less carbon percentage. Now, important areas of tertiary coal include parts of Assam, Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Himalayan foothills of Darjeeling in West Bengal, Jammu and Kashmir, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Kerala also. Okay, so Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and UT of Pondicherry, they also contain tertiary coal reserves, but in very less quantities. Okay, but most of the tertiary coal is found in extra peninsular region. Okay, very few deposits are found in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and UT of Pondicherry. Clear? Obviously, bituminous only, right? Nidhi, no confusion. Just look at this point again. Gondwana coal. There are two coal fields in India. Gondwana coal fields, tertiary coal fields. Okay. So we are talking about Gondwana coal now. So Gondwana coal is only 250 million years old. It is much younger than Carboniferous coal. Carboniferous coal is anthracite. Just think in this way. Carboniferous coal is anthracite coal because Carboniferous coal is 350 million years old. But Gondwana coal is only 250 million years old. So Gondwana coal is bituminous as well as subbituminous. Okay. And look at this point. Gondwana coal makes up 98% of the total coal reserves in India and 99% of the total coal production in India. So obviously in India we use bituminous coal, bituminous and subbituminous. Clear, right? I hope you understood, Nidhi. Now, okay. So just listen now. Tertiary coal, which is very new, can be of two types. It can be peat or it can be lignite, depending on the age. Okay? Tertiary coal, which is very young, only 15 to 60 million years old, can be of two types. It can be of peat or it can be of lignite. It all depends on the time. Okay? If it is very young, it is peat. If it is a bit old, it is lignite. Okay? Now, let us discuss about lignite. Okay? Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Jammu and Kashmir, Kerala, Rajasthan, West Bengal, and Puducherry, they all contain lignite reserves. Of all these, the hero is Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu excels all other states regarding reserves and production of lignite. Tamil Nadu is the champion. Just look at this point. Tamil Nadu accounts for 90% of the reserves and 57% of the total lignite production in India. Okay? Neyveli lignite fields of Cuddalore district are the largest deposits of lignite in Southeast Asia, not only India, the entire Southeast Asia. And mining in lignite coalfields is risky due to spontaneous combustion of lignite. I told you about this, right? So, did you understand lignite? So, tertiary coal, that is very young. It is only 15 to 60 million years old. So, tertiary coal can be peat or it can be lignite. It all depends on the length of the time, length of duration. So, we are not going to discuss about peat because that is not very important. We'll just discuss about lignite, and we have discussed about lignite. Okay. Now, lignite is also found in Gujarat and Rajasthan, Kutch district, and Bharuch district of Gujarat. Contain lignite reserves, but the lignite is of very poor quality. That means this lignite is very young. Lignite is found in Rajasthan in Palana, in Bikaner district. And the 250 megawatt thermal power plant at Bikaner wholly depends upon the lignite that is mined from Bikaner. Clear, right? Very simple. Now, what are the issues in coal mining in India? The distribution of coal is uneven. Okay. Obviously, I cannot consider this as a flaw, but it is one of the issue because no minerals are found distributed evenly. Not only coal, no mineral is found distributed evenly, except of course the silicate minerals. Okay, they are distributed evenly. Apart from that, no major mineral is distributed evenly. So first issue, distribution of coal is uneven in India. Next, our coal is mostly bituminous and subbituminous. Okay. So obviously high ash content and low caloric value. What do you mean by caloric value? The measurement of energy. Okay. Next, heavy losses due to fires in the mines. So in India, we used all outdated technology, and due to improper management, lack of technical knowledge, lack of machinery, and all that, there were so many mining accidents in the earth's in the India's past. I'm sorry, and there were so many fires and so many mining disasters. Many hundreds of people have lost their lives. Okay. Next, stealing. Pilferage means stealing. So at many mines, the local people steal a lot of coal. Okay, so pilferage at several stages also adds to losses. So I've seen a documentary actually. I don't remember which coal mine that was, but the people there, they send their children to steal from coal mines. Okay. Many of the people work in coal mines and they send their children to steal from coal mines. First of all, the mining industry is very dangerous. It is very polluting, very toxic. Lot of dust particles and heavy metal particles are released. Small children, young people, they don't go to schools. They simply go and steal the coal that is, deposited. That is what they do. Next, serious problem of environmental pollution. India's power plants, I'm sorry, India's power plants use high ash and moisture content coal, which produces a lot of smoke. Okay? Now, safety measures against environmental pollution are very costly. For example, there is a way to make the coal cleaner. It is called clean coal technology. Okay. So, I don't have time to explain this basically, but this is a very important topic. So, kindly search clean coal technology. It will help you a lot. You can write about this in your essays. You'll get very good marks, very, very good marks. So, clean coal technology is there. We can use clean coal technology, but it is very costly. Okay, and in India, capital is the biggest limiting factor, right? For any activity, any program, any scheme, any policy, money is the biggest limiting factor in India. So that is the reason we are not able to go for clean coal technology. It's very expensive and also it is complex. So we are not able to save our environment. And unfortunately, 80% of India's electricity is produced from thermal power plants, mostly from coal-based thermal power plants. Okay? And we also have discussed about the standards for thermal power plants, right? In air pollution chapter. Just relate that to this. You'll get a complete picture. Kusum. Caloric value is the measurement of energy. How much energy is given out by burning coal? Okay. Now, misuse of good quality coal for burning into transport and industries. Okay. So, good quality coal is not used in thermal power plants much. It is mostly used in metallurgical industries and transportation. Okay. Of course, we do not have any coal based engines or anything like that now, but it is mostly used in, industries, metallurgical industries. Let me remove the word transport because that is all past. Right now, nobody is using coal based engines for transportation. So, good quality coal is not given for thermal power plants. They continue to use, lesser quality coal, which contains a lot of moisture and other impurities. Next, selective mining leading to large scale wastage of raw coal. What do you mean by selective mining? So, mining is done, and the miners inside the earth, they only collect good quality coal. They don't collect coal which is of poor quality or coal which is not properly formed. Okay, they just leave it here and they come back. But do you think that coal will get converted into better quality coal? No, you already have dug up the entire area. Okay, you disturb the natural process. So that leftover coal will not be converted into a better quality coal. It will be like that forever. So that is also a big issue in India. I hope you understood this. The miners, they go deep inside the earth and they only collect good quality coal. They leave the bad quality coal or improperly formed coal there itself. They don't touch it. So that is leading to large scale wastage of raw coal. And actually, we can subject this coal to pyrolysis. The coal that is not properly formed, we can subject that to pyrolysis to produce charcoal. See, whatever is happening naturally inside the earth, we are doing that artificially. That is pyrolysis. Okay. Whatever is happening naturally inside the earth, the organic matter being subjected to pressure, heat, and all that, we are doing that artificially, and that is pyrolysis. We have discussed pyrolysis, right, in solid waste chapter. So if you convert this, raw coal, which is not of good quality, into charcoal, then charcoal can be used as a source of energy, or charcoal can be placed inside the soil to increase the soil organic carbon content. Anything can be done, but they don't do that. Next, unscientific method of extraction of coal. Okay, our mines depend mostly on labor. Okay, subjecting them to very serious health risks, and also they risk their life and they go into the mines. Okay, but in other countries it is mostly mechanized, so unscientific method of extraction of coal. Clear, right? So all these are the issues in coal mining in India. Okay, now I hope you understood this. Now just to get this point, very very important, India imports coking coal. What do you mean by coking coal? Using coking coal you make coke. Coke is used in iron and steel industries, but India doesn't have coking coal. India has to import coking coal. We have bituminous and subbituminous coal. They cannot be used for making coke. I hope you're understanding. So India doesn't have any coking coal. In spite of India having one of the largest coal reserves in the world, we still import coking coal. Now, let me just describe the differences between coking coal and non-coking coal. So this is very, very important, guys. Coking coal or metallurgical coal. It has high carbon content, less moisture, less sulfur, less ash. Sulfur is very bad for iron and steel industry because sulfur leads to corrosion. Okay. So sulfur is very bad for iron and steel industry. Coking coal contains very less sulfur. Okay. But in India we have thermal coal or non-coking coal or steaming coal. So here sulfur content is high and hence cannot be used in iron and steel industry. That is the type of coal we have in India. Okay. So we use this coal for what? Thermal power plants. That is the reason we call it as thermal coal. Next, coking coal is used to create coke. Coke is produced by heating bituminous coal without air to extremely high temperatures, like pyrolysis basically. Coking is flushing out impurities and improving the concentration of carbon. Okay, but we cannot do that with thermal coal that is found in India. Yes, thermal coal is also bituminous and coking coal is also bituminous. But the type of coal that is found in India contains a lot of sulfur. So it is not suitable for creating coke. I hope you're understanding. See, in India, 80%, not 80%, I'm sorry, 98% of coal reserves Gondwana coal. And from Gondwana coal, we get bituminous and subbituminous. Okay, that means we have very good reserves of bituminous and subbituminous coal in India. And coking coal is also bituminous coal. But unfortunately, the coal in India contains a lot of sulfur. So it cannot be used for making coke. Okay. And also the bituminous coal that is found in India has less carbon content. Clear, right? So creating coke using this coal is not economical. The thermal coal which we have in India. Moreover, traces of sulfur will remain even after coking. And sulfur is very, very bad for iron and steel industry. Clear, right? Now, who are the major producers of coking coal? Australia, Canada, United States. And who are the major exporters of coking coal? Australia, Canada, United States. China imports huge amount of coking coal from Australia. India also imports coking coal. Okay. Now, thermal coal or non-coking coal. Who are the major producers? China, Australia, USA and Russia. Who are the major exporters? Australia and South Africa. Okay, even if you don't remember this, that is fine. But you have to remember that India imports a lot of coking coal. And I'm hoping you understood the difference between coking coal and non-coking coal. Non-coking coal is also called thermal coal. It is used in thermal power plants. But coking coal is used to make coke. and coke is used in iron and steel industries. Coking coal has less sulfur, and sulfur is very bad for iron and steel industry. Unfortunately, the bituminous and subbituminous coal that is found in India contains a lot of sulfur. So we cannot use this coal to make coke. So we have to import coke because iron and steel industries are core industries for any country and we have to encourage them. Clear, right? Not only sulfur, even the thermal coal in India, it contains less amount of carbon. Okay, less amount of carbon, high sulfur content. That is the problem with the coal we have in India. That is the reason the coal which we have is thermal coal or non-coking coal or steaming coal. That is used in thermal power plants. But the coking coal that is found in the countries of Australia, Canada, and United States. This coal contains less sulfur and high carbon content. Okay, so this is used to make coke. Clear, right? So, guys, I hope you understood all this. So, it's already, uh, I've already stretched it beyond the time. So, let me just stop it here for today. Anyway, it's Sunday, right? I just don't want to eat your head. Let me just stop it here for today. And tomorrow also, I'll be taking two geography classes and environment. I still have one more law to finish. So, I'll finish that off tomorrow. And, guys, I have a request from you. I need to leave tomorrow night for Madhya Pradesh, as I told you. I have some important work there. So even if I am not able to complete the syllabus tomorrow, please don't worry. I'll come back on Friday. I'll take one class and I'll finish off the syllabus. Okay. Already most of the syllabus is done, right? So please don't worry about anything. And all the handouts you'll get by tomorrow evening or day after tomorrow morning. Take it for granted. So even if I'm not able to finish off the syllabus tomorrow, please don't worry. I'll come back on Friday and take the class and finish off the syllabus. Just wait for me. Okay? So guys, thank you so much and let us meet tomorrow.